On this episode of Around the Outside, Ian and Mike talk the first part 1 of 2 for the special Baku Sprint Weekend. Second part is the race itself. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show.
You're listening to Around the Outside, the American Formula One podcast with your hosts Ian Shea and Mike DuPont.
Everybody to another episode of Around the Outside, the American Formula One podcast. You are listening to the first part of a 2-part Baku special. And to make this not a boring monologue, please allow me to introduce your co-host, Mike DuPont. Mike, what's up, man?
Oh, just reflecting on what's been a crazy past few days in Baku, and thinking about the pros and cons of our little experiment here, Ian.
Yeah, I think we're both going to have differing opinions on this. Do you want to get through what's been going down throughout the weekend and then give our 2 cents on it after?
I think that would make a lot of logistical sense. So the big news this week in Formula One is the supposedly ousting of Franz Tost at the end of the year, and Ferrari race director Laurent Mekies making the move to be the new team principal of AlphaTauri.
Congratulations, Laurent. That's huge. That's a big payday. That's a big promotion to run your own Formula One team. I think that ousted was a very good word. It's my opinion that I think so, because what gets me about this whole situation is that Laurent's still on the pit wall at Ferrari, which means that he's involved in team secrets. And I think it's common practice within Formula One to not want to keep someone on as long as you possibly have to, so they don't keep those secrets with them and then take them to their other team, which is why I think it was quite sudden of a decision. Paired with the new CEO coming in for AlphaTauri, I just believe that there's a needed change in the management, and it's happening sooner than we thought. Mike, what do you think about this situation?
Well, coming from the perspective of a Ferrari fan, Forza Ferrari, I'm not quite sure how to feel about it, because our race directing, or the way we've been strategizing overall in races for the past, I don't know, since Ross Brawn left Ferrari, hasn't been very good. So at the same breath, obviously has a massive position at the team, and Ferrari isn't. They still need the guy.
Oh yeah.
So that's why he's sitting on the pit wall, and I imagine he's going to stay there. I don't really think Ferrari sees AlphaTauri as a direct competitor, but could valuable information that Ferrari possesses, like you mentioned, secrets, could that make its way over to Red Bull to potentially hamper chances of Ferrari trumping them in the future? I mean, I imagine that's the kind of like the fear. You're not worried about AlphaTauri beating Ferrari, especially with the performance of their car and one of their drivers this year. You're not really sweating that, but yeah, the team connection between AlphaTauri and Red Bull. Every little thing matters in Formula One, and small things can make up a 10th, a 100th, a 1,000th of a second, which determine who's on pole, who sets the fastest lap, who wins the championship. So it'd be in Ferrari's best interest to try to, I would imagine, promote from within, but Franz seemed pretty PO'd in the interview he did with Sky, Ian, about the whole situation.
I could see so. I think that he was put up against, well, the dude eroded away his own team when he made the comments of not trusting his own engineers. And that, I want to say, was the beginning of the end for him, because I've been saying before, if you can't trust the guys who are building the car for you, how can you expect them to want to follow you? And I think the leader-follower relationship was ruined at that point, and paired with the expectations put on AlphaTauri by the sister team Red Bull has been pushing the team, I think, beyond their capacities. And hopefully this new relationship with Laurent and Red Bull works out for the future of AlphaTauri, because they are a strong team. They have a proven track record. And Mike, I did not think about secrets going into the Red Bull. I was only single-minded on AlphaTauri collecting Ferrari secrets. Like, I could see Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, even Adrian Newey, walking into his office first day, like, so what's up, man?
Yeah, and I imagine that's why Fred Vasseur was so visibly upset and pissed off during his interview with Sky. I mean, he was like, yeah, this is surprising. I'm not going to stand in the way of his promotion. I completely understand, but he was pissed. Like, I'm sure he's pissed, because this guy who's like, hey, I'm leaving the organization, Fred would love to just get rid of him, I would imagine. And so he doesn't have access to any of this Ferrari, intel, but he's in such an important position. Yeah. He is in Laurent Mekies. It's not just one that you can easily replace. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. Will Ferrari try to get Laurent out of the team sooner rather than later? Who will they promote from within? Will they promote from another team, or hire from another team? So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. And Franz has quite the track record. Franz Tost, the soon-to-be ex-team principal of AlphaTauri, has a fantastic track record. He's done some great things in Formula One. It wasn't long ago that AlphaTauri was a strong team. Gasly had some incredibly strong finishes in the team.
Max Verstappen came up
well
through
as the second stint. Yeah, I mean, not so long ago, Albon was performing really well in the team. I mean, it's not like he took in young, unproven talent, and the team got decent results.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Is this a mix of him kind of wanting to leave and it just kind of being timely with the new ownership change? I don't know. Somebody like Franz Tost, I'd imagine you would want to keep him. But yeah, when you come out and oust your team, maybe the team wants to oust you. I mean, I guess Toto's a good,
it's never been on record. It's never been on record.
Yeah, I know you're AI generated. Yeah, I mean, Toto's, I guess, is the contradiction. You can make fun of your team and tell them they suck and they built a terrible car, but
never been on record.
I have no repercussions for that. Yeah, it was fake news. Yeah, in Formula One, that was the big news. But we have a lot to talk about. The new sprint format. I think it probably makes a lot of sense to jump right on in.
Let's get into FP1. FP1 starts off with a happy birthday, Dr. Helmut Marko. He is 80. I am very impressed he's able to keep up.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Helmut Marko.
Mr. Marko.
Stop. His wife's going to think you're cheating. At the beginning of the weekend, I want to say, was marked by upgrades by every single team. And there are two teams I want to make note of. One, Alpine, due to an outrageous statement. And I'm an Alpine fanboy. I love them. But the way they were talking up the performance of their car was they're going to be fighting for P2. Guys, Come on.
Nope.
No. Then the other form of upgrades was for McLaren. I did an Instagram post about Lando saying, this is what we should have had from the start. And Mike, I am very impressed with what they should have had from the start. That car looked completely different on track.
Obviously, they changed we've talked about before, they changed the way they're developing the car.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of their lead developer. I guess one of my initial thoughts on McLaren, and it's so great to see them back up, not in the bottom, was this. I imagine this was a concept, something that was designed with the old development team. This wasn't something that was just within the last month. They magically had this amazing concept that they came up with, engineered it, developed. This is definitely something. I know they recognized their approach was wrong, and they designed a new philosophy that they were planning on releasing. Now it came out and it was faster. So
was that under the direction of James Key?
Right. I imagine it was.
It has to be.
Now, James initially screwed up.
Yeah.
But he rectified his mistakes and came up with a concept that was better. So, yeah, is the new development team the triple-headed dragon, that the format that the decided to go with, which historically has not worked in Formula One for Formula One teams. I think Adrian Newey said that's a disaster. Yeah, will that work for them? Will they continue to progress? But it's great to see McLaren up there doing well.
Yep.
Lando and Oscar seem to be two of the closest drivers on the entire grid.
I'm starting to see what you see in Oscar. I have to admit. I'm not saying I'm...
Do you see what I see?
A star. Yeah, he is, though. The kid's fucking quick, man. And to be able to...
He's really good.
I mean, I'm comparing him to the last driver in that car. And he is already outperforming, in my opinion, the last driver in that car.
Yeah. Red Bull pretty much said that Daniel was broken when they got him. Like they said, when they first put him in the simulator, he was so far off from Max and Checo that they were like, what the hell happened to you?
Yeah.
But I guess he's making progress. But I'm glad. It just speaks volumes about how good Oscar Piastri really can be.
Yeah.
We all think extremely highly of Lando, and for him to be almost matching him, he's still a half step behind. But I think that's it. I think it's not much more than that.
No, I mean, he's staying within that 0.3 window. I like a 0.3 tolerance for drivers. I think that's fair. I think that's acceptable. And he's riding that line quite firmly, and with only 4 races under his belt. Not even technically, if you count today, half a race or whatever the fuck. But he's got promise. He's got potential. And I'm not wrong. I was short-sighted in my thoughts about him.
Pretty much every session of the sprint shootout and the qualifying, both of the qualifying sessions that we've had this weekend, they were about within a 10.
Wow. That's really good.
Lando beat him pretty much every time, but he's right on his toes, right on his heels, I should say. And I think that's extremely impressive for his rookie year. So we'll see if he can beat Lando at all moving forward. But yeah, happy for McLaren. They have a better car, and they have 2 really competitive drivers that are going to push each other. And that's extremely important in a Formula One team. I think that competition between both drivers is a healthy thing. You want them competing. You want them to feel like, I got to beat this guy. You don't want them to feel like they're comfortably in control or ahead. But I think there's pros and cons on both sides. But I do feel they're more pros for having the two drivers be competitive between each other.
I mentioned Alpine. I didn't want to get into it immediately, but an Alpine brought out the first red flag of the entire weekend because of a hydraulic line. And the fire that was coming out of that Alpine was, it's smokestack. It was like a smokestack. It was almost like looking at the Industrial Revolution. And I was thinking that it was going to blow because they kept driving. So I was like, oh, it's just going to blow itself out. Like, you can remember the refueling days when guys would just light up and they just drive off and it would put itself out. And I was surprised that they allowed him to go on for that long. And also, side note, Mike, there were things on social media about that I didn't like, because I saw a couple posts online stating that it was like, oh, is this where the protests in France are? I don't think that's right to do. I think you can't relate a Formula One car to an extreme upheaval in a country where there's anger and violence. And we do have French listeners. To you guys, I hope that you are safe. I hope you were staying safe during that tumultuous time. And if that offended you, which it rightly should have, I'm sorry that you had to see that. It was insensitive, and I don't think that was right to do. Formula One is a sport for people to come together and forget about the troubles of the world and look at what's happening on track for an hour to take your mind off of it. I didn't like seeing that. So once again, to our French listeners, sorry that you had to see that.
Sums up social media.
Yeah. The amount of fire extinguishers that they had around the car, though. There was like 7, and most of the time I'm wondering if they know which fire extinguisher to use, because I can remember Seb trying to put out a fire, and he was telling the guys, no, not this one, use this one, not that one. I'm just curious, why just get the one that makes it colder, no? Or there's got to be something I don't know, obviously, to have 7 different fire extinguishers
Classic
out.
Seb. It's like, no, I don't want to ride. Give me your scooter. No, I don't want you touching the fire extinguisher. Give it to me.
Give it to me.
Classic Seb.
Haas fell down at the same time as the Alpine too, which is sad. Mike, what do you think is going down with Haas? Because like we said earlier this season, they have a history of a decline. Are we starting to see the beginning of that decline?
Well, they didn't really come out the first, at Bahrain. It's not like they were like they blew us away.
Mm.
I mean, for the final race results in Bahrain, their highest finish was 13th. So, 13th and 15th. So I think that's just about where they are. They're just that's just not this top, 4, maybe not even the top 5 constructor. They're not at the bottom. They're not AlphaTauri levels, but
they're like medium high heat.
They're just they're comfortably in the lower midfield.
Right. I was hoping more for them this season because of the sacrifice they made in 2021. I was hoping that they'd be able to use that wind tunnel allotment, yada, 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 to not be in the position that we're talking about. It's really going to come down to how Gunther leads his team. In the past, I've said that he is a bit of a sledgehammer, and I hope that he doesn't fall back on that, because it doesn't seem to work, but history does repeat itself, and the team needs to maybe find, I don't want to say a change in team principle, because that guy is Haas, but a change in management strategy for the team to come together. What do you think?
I don't know how much what he can really do differently, Ian. I mean, it's not like Haas is the same kind of team as a Ferrari, Red Bull,
True.
Mercedes.
Yeah.
I mean, they have an agreement with Ferrari. They buy a lot of parts from them. You know, they're not this massive race. They're one of the smaller teams. They're one of the youngest. They're the youngest team in Formula One as well. So, yeah, I mean, go back to remembering when they had a good car for one of their first few years. Grosjean had some fantastic finishes for them. I think they're about where we would expect them to be, honestly, and we'll just have to see as time moves on if they do their usual slip and start to move further down the grid. But I think they're kind of where they should be. And hopefully next year's a better one for Haas, but somebody's got to be in that 7-8 spot. And I think Haas is more or less comfortably there.
Yeah. Only other action I really saw go down in FP1 was Yuki-san smacking his right rear, turn 3, and Mr. Carlos Sainz smacking his left front at the, 8-9?
He's off the track a lot last 2 days.
I'm not...
He's having a rough one in Baku.
I'm not happy for him. I love Carlos. Vamos Carlos, always. Mike, what do you think is going on in his head, man? Because it's just we're not seeing the performance of him.
It's similar to what happened last year. He's trying to compare himself to Charles. And I just think Charles is one level higher than him. And so he's trying to drive outside of his skill set and what the car can do to get to Charles's level. And I just think in qualifying kind of proved it. Charles is just one of the best drivers in Formula One. He may be the single fastest driver over one lap in F1 and maybe in the world. I don't think that car is not faster than Red Bull. The sprint today showed that. The Red Bull is a faster car. So for him to do what he did in qualifying, Q1, I mean, I know we'll get there, but that's, I guess, our next session to talk about.
How about
Q1 to be the fastest?
Let's go to Q1.
Q3.
Because FP1, that was it, really. It was red flag. All right, on to Q1. Mike, Q1.
Yeah, I guess my only other note for practice.
Oh, I'm sorry for pushing the O-line too hard.
Ocon, Gasly, and Magnussen. They hardly had any running for various reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Gasly and Magnussen negatively affected by this during quali.
Big time. And this is the risk that you run.
Well, this is the pros and cons of the sprint race weekends, which I'm sure we're going to talk about at the end of the podcast. But just a note, those guys had hardly any running, having to go right into qualifying. 2 out of 3 struggled. So, on to qualifying.
Q1. Out in Q1, Nick DeVries, Pierre Gasly, Mike, I'm going to pause right there. When I saw his car on fire, what were you thinking when you saw his car on fire?
Sometimes you just it's just not your weekend.
And I was like, there's no way this guy's going to be able to get back into for the race quali. He's P20. You had an entire, the thing was coated in fire extinguisher liquids. It was on fire, and sure enough, they got him out. Mike, why was he in P19? Because he smacked the fucking wall in the same spot as Yuki. A lot harder than Yuki. Half the car seemed wrecked.
Yeah, is that an issue with the AlphaTauri? I mean, they were talking on the broadcast today how strange Yuki's shunt looked like he just had a significant amount of understeer. Obviously, Yuki's one of the drivers in practice who got some running, but yeah, is this an issue with the AlphaTauri, or is this a case of Gasly hardly got any track time? He had less laps and practice and qualifying than most drivers had for the practice session.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's just some guys, you just don't have a good weekend. But
like Nick DeVries
obviously would have helped. Yeah, oh my God, when does he have a good weekend?
I don't know. I don't think it's on the way. Hey, fuck. I had really high hopes. He's a champion. He is a world champion in a motorsport. And I think that what we're seeing, which is kind of cool, is how difficult a Formula One car is to get a hold of. That you're seeing the true animal. Because I have to remind myself that Max, Charles, Lewis, George, it's not a Sunday drive, but they make it look like a Sunday drive. Nick is showing more of the human nature to the sport, I guess. And why did he crash out? I can't remember.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Oh yeah, like right away. Pretty much immediately. Yeah, on his third lap, he crashed out. So not good. Nick DeVries, not good.
Magnussen's P17 because he got the fucking fuel line issue that never resolved.
Unlucky. Yeah, the team told him we need to retire the car, and he said, "Well, it's not that bad because we don't want to risk basically losing an engine and components. We need to retire the car." So unlucky. He didn't get a lot of running in practice either. Mm-hmm. Both him and Gasly. So to see them both as well at the bottom of the table for qualifying is disappointing. Not getting any luck.
Hulkenberg, that was
followed by Magnussen, though. Yeah,
I was confused. I think that maybe this track just doesn't suit the Haas. It's the only thing I can think of. It's just draggy. Because Hulkenberg is a dude, he got fucking P3 in a Silverstone quali. We just sat in the car, turned the wheel a couple times. I was like, all right, let's do it.
Right.
And finally out, heartbreaking for me, Joey. Like,
yeah.
What is it? 200ths of a second? I'm sad.
It's very close.
I'm very sad. I'm sad for Joey. I'm really sad for Alfa Romeo. I love the way that car looks, and it does not drive the way it looks.
Yeah, Alfa Romeo is another one of those teams that they're a lower midfield team, and I don't really see them leaving that position on the table anytime soon.
No. Well, I mean, honestly, Alfa is out at the end of the season. How much money are they going to be putting into a dead project?
Right.
Sauber's carrying the team. They don't even have a true team principal yet. So I think this is a white knuckle season. I just hope this white knuckle season doesn't affect Joe's future. I think Bottas is solid-ish.
I think he's, overall, I would expect him on a weekend by weekend basis to outperform Zhou Guanyu, and for Zhou Guanyu to be matching and beating him in a lot of these sessions speaks volumes about, I think, how good Joey is. So I wouldn't be too concerned about if I were Zhou Guanyu. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'm sure you got a lot of sponsorship money, so somebody's going to be willing to take in. But yeah, the gap between DeVries and our boy Yuki is quite severe, as well as the gap to Logan Sargent and his teammate Alex Albon. So the two, to go back to your point about how difficult driving a Formula One car is. The gap between our, I'm going to call De Vries a rookie, even though he had, an appearance or two before in the past and had been a reserve driver for quite some time. Yeah, they're really struggling.
They are. Well, the
one's hard.
Q2, Logan was the first one out in a car that is slippery.
Yep.
And a track where it's half straights and half corners. And a track where your teammate is extracting every little bit out of there. And I know he's a rookie. I know Logan is getting his feet on the ground. I hope that he's able to, well, we all know what happens later. So I'm not even going to finish that fucking sentence because...
Yeah, sprint qualifying wasn't very good for him, was it?
No. Bottas was out next. That was heartbreaking. I hated everything. Albon was interesting. He is starting P13. He said Carlos blocked him. Mike, did you see anything like that?
No, I don't really think they showed it in too much detail. I may be wrong about that. But, I mean, he's, what was it? About 0.2 off from Oscar. So, maybe there's a chance that he gets out, but I guess he more or less placed where we would expect him to, given the improvements that McLaren
shocking.
has had.
I'm still shocked. It's well said, Mike, because, Ocon was out, Russell was out by 4/1000ths, whatever, Q3, McLaren. They pulled it out at the end. And for Oscar to beat a Mercedes, who cares if it's 4/1000ths? A win's a win.
Right.
And also, Aston Martin for race quali, I wasn't expecting them to be so low, but apparently they have a weakness of some sort.
Or maybe other teams brought upgrades and improved their car, and Aston Martin hasn't.
Fair point.
Yeah, they had their issues in sprint quality, which we're going to get into in just a moment with their DRS. Yeah, I mean, maybe they're. Yeah, could it be just as simple as other teams have made some improvements that have gotten a little bit of a jump on us, and I'm not sure what their development schedule is like and if they brought anything, but they didn't really set the world on fire like they had in the last few race weekends.
Who got pole? Your boy,
Charles Leclerc.
And was this not
my boy?
Did they not get the same time? Which was 145 something to a T, 0.0000 between the two. Him and Max, right? Because it was
for a brief period. Yes, they had the exact same time. Their final times for each session were slightly different. But yeah, Charles pulled out an absolute blazing lap in Q3 and took pole, to his surprise and everyone else's surprises as well. But after that Q1 session, I was starting to be like, can he actually do this? Is the Ferrari actually fast? Like, what is going on?
I had no idea. Sorry.
The difference between him and Carlos was mind-numbing.
0.8?
So Q1, it was bad. Like Q1, Charles had a 141.2. Carlos, a 142.1. We're talking about almost an entire second. Q2, Charles had a 141.0. Carlos a 141.3. So at least he was within 0.3 there. But Q3 was the same story. Charles a 142 to take pole, and Carlos a 141.0. Like, these are significant gaps. You mentioned earlier, being between 2 or 3 tenths of your teammate. I would probably say you want to be within 2 tenths.
Yeah.
That's a severe gap, a severe deficit. And Carlos has been struggling all weekend. We'll see how he does tomorrow.
I didn't see anything. Oh, yeah, no, there was one thing. No Lando. Was it? Oh, no, that's sprint quali. See, I'm getting confused about what qualies and what day we're on.
I know. I think one of my things, and we'll get into it later, I think they need to do a different format for the sprint shootout.
Like
the back-to-back qualies, I don't know F1. I like how it's like a one-shot almost qualifying, but they just end up filling up the car for 5 or 6 laps and just driving around on mediums for 10 minutes. I don't know. That's the one thing that I'd like to see them change. When I was watching, I was like, I think you need to do a different format. We need to look at some other series and see what's a way that we can shake this up, that we don't have 2 back-to-back essentially the same qualifying sessions. I mean, we all love quali, but
it wasn't like a quali set. Mike, I'm not even going to go through really Q1 and Q2 and even Q3, because like you said, it was pretty much the same fucking thing. And what I really like what you said is you're watching these guys just drive around. It didn't feel like a qualifying session. It just felt like just put in a lap. It's like sort of like a quick testing almost.
I think we had some drivers hitting the wall and red flags. And I think, that had a certain level to do with that. The sessions are shorter. Somebody hits a wall, you're like, Jesus, I only have one more shot at this lap, and I'm fueled up for 6 laps, and I'm on mediums.
But you're slow.
It's not the same thing as we fuel up for one hot lap, fresh set of softs. Yeah, the current qualifying we have is at Q1, Q2, Q3 is exciting. F1's tried a variety of different iterations of qualifying. Mm-hmm. And we've stuck with this format for quite some time because it works. Mm-hmm. It's a good format. I'm not sure about the sprint shootout format. I think they need to try doing something a little different.
I thought it was funny how they try and separate it from a race weekend, but you can't call quali 1, just throw an S in front of it to make it a different. It's a quali run. Like, just stop calling it SQ1, SQ2. No, it's a quali run. It's okay to say quali. I just like you said, Mike, just give me that one hot lap with just enough fuel, because that's when you can see these cars hum. There's like almost like a nice little vibration. And I think back to, the W11. I think it was undeniably a monster in that Silverstone before they took away party mode and started that car would just, there was like this vibration in it. You're like, holy crap, that thing's fast. Like, that's the fastest thing I've ever seen. Like the 2004 Ferrari. Just the same concept of being able to look on TV and say, okay, that's what 200 miles an hour looks like.
Right.
Yeah. Also Logan, what the fuck was that? Rookie mistake, no? You don't think it was a rookie mistake?
He said that the Ferrari got in his way,
wait.
But it was not pretty.
Carlos couldn't have gotten over farther left if he tried, because there was a wall next to him. And then,
you do want to be right on that inside. That is a difficult turn. You take a lot of speed into that turn. You really do want, you have to really pick your braking, and your turn-in point has to be extremely precise with the amount of momentum and speed you're taking into that turn.
Oh, turn 15.
You are touching that curb and at the same time coming inches within the exit wall on curbs when you're really doing it right. It's a quality run. Did the team not let them know that there were slower drivers ahead? Nevertheless, you have more than one opportunity, right? It's a rookie mistake, and it just kind of shows the gap between him and Albon. I mean, when your teammate is 7th, and you're not even putting in a lap in Q2, or S2, I should say.
How dare you? No, you forgot SQ2. SQ2.
Oh my God.
I think
yeah, it's not very good.
It's fair to say a rookie mistake. He got distracted because the Ferraris were close, and I want to say it's a rookie mistake because do you remember Sebastian Vettel in Abu Dhabi, his final Q3 run? In the final third sector, he went through Latifi corner and he threaded the needle by 3-4 cars. It is incredible. If I can find the replay or somebody send it to us for the replay. That's just comparison. Yes, it's damn near apples and oranges, 4-time world champion rookie, but that's the level of experience that comes with time in Formula One, and he's just not there. And that's okay.
It's a somewhat blind. You really got to rely on your team to kind of tell you where the cars are on the track when you're on a qualifying session, especially on a street circuit. And it requires you to more or less make a split decision in the moment. Am I backing out of the lap or am I going for this? And he decided to kind of have an interesting way of entering the corner and just blew it.
He put a little too much freedom and democracy on the throttle right there, And I swear I saw a bald eagle come in and just flap his wings. We all know Formula One cars are sensitive to wind, so a combination of those things paired with him being a rookie, it's bound to happen.
I did like the American flag on his helmet, Ian. That was nice to see.
Well, it was nice to see. What was not nice to see?
That's the only positive you can take.
Piastri coming out P11. That was a bummer. 3/300ths of a second. Fun fact that I learned: he's sick right now. The kid has been sick all week.
Right.
Not too shabby. Mike, I can't believe you're doubting this kid from the beginning of the season. When
oh yeah, if you go back and listen to the earlier podcast, that was definitely my sentiment, not yours.
I was telling you he was hot,
but okay. Just watching the backtrack with her.
I have to claw my way, Mike. I'm clawing my every episode, just a little at a time.
Just keep digging. Grab your shovel. But yeah, no, for him to be that close and feeling under the weather is great. I mean, with his track record in his junior career, he's a George Charles Max Lando talent, and I think as the year goes on, we're gonna continue to see just what he can do. Hopefully, McLaren can keep moving up the ladder so we can see more of Oscar on the broadcast and see just exactly what he can do. I mean, we all love Lando too. I mean, we all want to see Lando win a race. So come on, McLaren, get it sorted. There's no reason why you shouldn't be better than Aston Martin.
True.
Absolutely no reason.
True words.
Aston Martin should not be better than you. So figure it out. You have the resources. So yeah, hopefully they can keep moving forward and progressing their development. But yeah, tip of the hat, Oscar. Keep doing what you're doing. Besides, like getting food poisoning or whatever the heck happened to you. I think they said it was a stomach bug.
there was an oddity in SQ3. Lando Norris made it in, but Lando Norris could not run because he didn't have soft tires. I just asking because I legitimately don't know. Wasn't there a, I don't want to say controversy, something with the rules, the way the FIA wrote them about burning out all your softs so you can get an extra? Did you hear anything about this? Or read something up on it?
The fact that we have added an additional qualifying session and a driver that, finished in a position to start the next session wasn't able to due to lack of tire compounds makes no sense to me. And our other qualifying sessions, when you make it to Q3, you're given an additional soft to quali on. Like it's ridiculous that he wasn't able to go out in Q3.
He had like a scrubbed set of softs and that ruined it.
SQ3.
Thank you.
So this is getting so confusing. I'm sorry, listeners.
Because Q3 was Friday with the one practice session, and then we hit Parc Ferme. Now we SQing on a Saturday. Who got pole? Who got pole again? Say it. Say it.
Your boy.
After crashing. That's how fast.
It's Monaco all over again. It's strategic. It's strategic crashing. Now, I'm sure people will say that, but he's just doing the same thing as he's doing in Monaco. He's just trying to go as fast as he possibly can.
I mean, these fucking tires.
It's as simple as that.
Soft tires in Baku for quali more than you can't pit. You're going to fall off the cliff, and that's why he biffed it.
Charles is so fast.
That's why he can crash.
Fast. And there's just always a risk of rain with Charles Leclerc. Big story. Checo beat Max. And the shootout, as we're about to talk about the sprint race, Max had damage, but in the sprint, Checo prevailed. Checo finished in first in the sprint and finished ahead of Max in both sessions.
Muy bueno, Checo. Vamos, amigo. Rooting for him all season long.
Especially with the way I heard the team radio after the sprint.
What did they say? I didn't.
It was just like incredibly passive towards Checo. Like Checo is all fired up, like, well, we'll do it again to them tomorrow, all this kind of stuff. Then they basically just said, good job, Checo. And Max was like, Max, given the circumstances with your injured vehicle, you did fantastic out there. It's like, you have two drivers. Like, give the guy a little bit of praise. Did the broadcast just not? Did Horner come on the radio and talk? I imagine if Horner came on the radio and talked to Checo, we would have heard that.
Yeah,
like they're normally not shy about sharing that on the broadcast.
It reminds me of when Valtteri in 2000 and oh gosh, that was 2 years ago, 2021. I forget what race.
Valtteri, it's James.
Don't abort the.
That can sum up the last couple of years of. He's like, oh, not again.
It's like, I'm fucking crushing it up here.
What now, James?
What's it?
I just want to be fast. Can I win one race?
He couldn't. Well, when he did win the race, I don't know if you remember, they were showing the podium, and Vebo is like, wow, and then they pan on over to Toto, who's got his arms crossed because Lewis got like P6 or something, like wasn't on the podium, and it was tight in points. And he sees the camera and is just like slyly trying to not pretend that he's just now starting to clap. Same thing. The same. Come on, man. Just high five him.
Who's the guy that was like the Grammys or the Academy Awards, and like that infamous like Brett Favre. It was Brett Favre's clap. Doing his best Brett Favre impression. Yeah, you hate to see that. The supposed number 2 driver gives their all, and he's just he's scoring points for the team. And I'm not the biggest Checo fan in the world, like full honesty. But yeah, it would have been nice to hear / see him get a little bit more love from the team.
So that's it for SQings. We go into the sprint race, and how did you? That's how I felt. Meh. About the whole sprint race. No.
Yeah, I mean the first lap was exciting. George got a really good start. He was duking it out with Max. It was nice to see Charles in the front for a little bit. It's kind of inevitable. It felt that the Red Bull was going to, because I think we all still know the Red Bull's faster than the Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, yeah, it's pretty meh.
I can't.
There wasn't too much that happened. I mean, we had a
Yuki going into crab.
Yellow, yeah, we had a yellow flag. We had VSC. We eventually turned into a red flag once they put a tire on. Noticed that his suspension was crooked. He was crab walking around out there.
Nick put him in the wall, by the way. It was DeVries that put Yuki into the wall, squeezed him in. Team-on-team contact, friendly fire. Oof. And with the current political climate that's going down at AlphaTauri, if you're seeing changes in leadership, what level of tolerance do you think Dr. Helmut Marko, Red Bull management, and even the new management coming in is going to have for team-on-team contact? Little to none?
I think Yuki's safe.
Yeah.
To be completely honest.
I think
Yuki's safe. He's really driving well this year. He's still really young. There's still a lot of room for improvement. DeVries is in trouble.
Big time.
If he doesn't put in some good performance and significantly improve across the board, I don't think there's any way he's in Formula One next year.
I agree. 100% agree. The spat between Max and George. Come on, Max. You play hard, brother. You've done that to people. And George had the inside line, and there's this little thing called the brake pedal underneath your left foot that if you just give it a dab, I get turn one incidents, but I just didn't like how Will Buxton said it great at the end of the race. He said, Max. I love his driving style. He's a hard racer, elbows out. That's why I love him. If you dish it out, you better be able to take it.
Yep.
And when they were talking, I was kind of just thinking to myself, George, bring the fucking smoke.
He just walked away.
He didn't give a shit.
Like it was like, yeah, like sorry you got hit, man, but like that's not my problem. The fact that it wasn't even reviewed during the sprint just kind of tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Like Max is getting on the radio saying, you need to report this, this isn't right. Dude, like I've literally seen you do significantly worse to other people.
Mick Schumacher at the end, it's Silverstone. Ultra aggressive to Mick.
Yeah.
And then he called him a fucking dickhead.
Literally punted people. Like I remember when you punted Seb in China. Like you've had some. That was just hard racing.
Yep.
Fair, hard racing. Was George just supposed to give you the position? George had a better start. Normally, you have the better start. You have more momentum. You're in a a better position overall, even after the first couple turns, to come out in front. So, like, good job, George. I understand that Max eventually got by it. Sorry, George, they just have the fastest car. There's not much you can do. I think because of the damage that Max had, he wasn't able to pass Charles, which, good for Ferrari, good for Charles. But at the end of the day, that Red Bull is still just the best car, and nobody can touch it just yet. But hopefully, after a few more weeks of development, a few more race weekends, somebody gets a little bit closer.
What's your overall? What's your overall? I hope that another top team. Let's go for Ferrari because they've got clearly have the 1 lap pace.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're lacking pace. I just think they're lacking sustainability of pace. And they need to
17 laps, right? We did 17 laps. Charles was 4.5 seconds behind the winning Red Bull.
Shit. And what's a Baku 50 total? 50 something?
The sprint is a third of the race distance.
Math is hard. 17:34. 44 plus 53. 56.
51.
51. So 60 laps and
so, yeah. So I mean,
multiply that by 3.
Like, so we could time that by 3 and say he's going to be 12 seconds behind Checo. If Max is probably, we all know Max is a little bit faster than Checo. So, 15 seconds, I guess. What was the gap in Australia for
14 or 20?
Okay.
It was something significant.
Hopefully, as races go on, we can see those times come down. I mean, this is the first time that anyone really came close to beating Max, I feel, in qualifying. Somebody actually did it. So hopefully we're able to bridge the gap a little bit. We all know Red Bull has the least amount of wind tunnel time, and theoretically they have the least amount of opportunity to improve their car. So hopefully we do get a little bit of a closing of the gap, but I think Red Bull is still comfortably in front. George outperforming Lewis again, huh? George P4, Lewis P7.
I was thinking about this, and I have a theory. I'm not, and it's about George.
Like a tinfoil hat theory? Or
no, I think like a legitimate theory, because George...
I see them as being equals, Ian.
I do too, and given the talent that George has, we have to remember that his teammate is a 7-time world champion who's been driving for 2007. What if...
no slouch.
What if Lewis will say 2 words during a debrief that George is like, oh my God, I have never been able to figure that out. What if that's the accoutrement that George needs in order to move up in this world? I mean, obviously that's why they're pairing him with Lewis Hamilton. I just wonder if that's why he's outperforming him, because George is equal, and then Lewis will say something and say, oh shit. Because I think age is a factor too. Lewis is 38, man. He's still a world-class athlete. He's still in phenomenal shape. He was bent over into a C during a red flag at one of the races. I forget which one. But George is 24, 5? Younger, much younger.
Is probably somewhere around there.
You bounce off things when you hit a wall. I remember when I was that age, you just get punched in the face and you start,
back in my day.
I might.
I see them as equals. Maybe there's some truth to that. I kind of feel like Lewis is the guy where if he found some kind of an angle or he figured something out, he wouldn't really want to share that with his teammate. to be completely honest. He's been had extremely heated competitive battles with teammates in the past. Rosberg, Alonso, when he comfortably beat the guy who was in the next car to him. That wasn't really like, maybe he didn't really feel like he had to. He could share that kind of information, but I don't necessarily see it like that. It's going to be interesting, and I think the relationship would be completely different if they had a car that was capable of winning races. This whole happy-go-lucky, we're both working together cooperatively to move the team forward. There's no competition really because, he sees me as being, George as being the future of the team, and it's a healthy thing for them both to be working as a collective to improve Mercedes and get them back to the top. But if Mercedes is fighting for wins and George is taking wins off Lewis, this would be a completely different story.
I agree. Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, when you're a Formula One driver, you're one of the most competitive people in the world.
But 8/10 difference in the end.
8/10?
I'm sorry, 8 seconds, 8.5 seconds difference between George and Lewis. George being in fourth, Lewis being in
sixth,
seventh.
Seventh? Where the fuck?
He was not able to get around.
Oh, because Carlos was P4. Or no, Carlos was P5.
5.
Dude. Carlos needs to be P3. He needs to be up there supporting Charles. Because that's what's just frustrating when you see...
Well, I'm not expecting him to be past Checo or Max, and I'm expecting Charles to beat Sainz comfortably. But
I expect Sainz to be up there with Checo. I expect that's the Max Charles, and then your wingmen in Checo and Carlos.
I don't see Ferrari being that close enough yet to Red Bull. I think if Max has a fully functional car, he gets by Charles, no problem, and Charles is in third.
Yeah,
I would love that.
That would be Ian
much
being hopeful,
more exciting, and it would we'd actually have some team strategy and tactics that we could use. Carlos and Red Bull could use Checo. I mean, if he's willing. Same with Carlos to help aid Charles or Max. I'd love that, Ian. We've had that in the past in Formula One. Unfortunately, I just don't think anybody's close enough to Red Bull just quite yet. But I understand your point. Like Carlos needs to be faster. But that's a 6/10 difference. I did it again. A 6-second difference between Charles and Carlos. An 8-second difference between George and Lewis.
Gosh. Did you, at this moment in time, want to talk about the overall feel of the weekend right now? Or do you want to save it for part 2? Ball's in your court. Heads or tails?
Well, I'm hoping we're gonna have a really exciting race, and there's gonna be a lot to talk about. I guess just some quick thoughts, Ian.
Yeah.
They need to do, like we talked about earlier, I think they need to do something different with the shootout. I don't think doing an SQ 1, 2, and 3 is the best thing. And when somebody crashes, we get a red flag or yellow flag, anything like that, it totally ruins it.
Yes.
And P1 wasn't enough for a couple of the guys, and I felt bad for them. They got unlucky, and they didn't have any laps. Can we do something where it's like a 30, 40 minute session where it's just a time trial. You treat it as a practice, treat it as quali if you want. You have 30, 40 minutes to just drive around the track. But by the way, your fastest lap is going to determine the grid for the sprint. So we can do some kind of a hybrid where you can still get some practice running in, but at the same breath, it's sprint qual. It's, more of our traditional weekend, but it still allows us to set a grid for the sprint race. Is kind of the first thing that comes to mind with me. There's pros and cons. Well, first, Ian, what do you think about that idea?
I love it. And I like what you said about practice. I think this weekend showed us that, yes, these guys are the best drivers in the world. Everybody needs practice. And these cars just are a handful. There were a lot of yellow flags. And I mean, I know it's weird, dude. This is the amount of red flag. I get it. I get why we're doing it. It's just practice, time stops. I just don't recall seeing when a red flag came out, something like I said last episode, something catastrophic has happened. They need time behind the wheel, and Mike, a 30-minute limit, 45 minutes, like you said, would appease. I think you can get your high fuel runs in, your low fuel runs in.
Exactly.
You collect more data that you need in order to make what I'm concerned with, because we were in Parc Ferme Friday afternoon till
which
Sunday.
We talked about in previous episodes. It'd be nice for them to extend that a little bit.
What's it going to do for the race?
I mean, maybe when we enter the sprint race starts Parc Ferme. So your sprint and the actual race, very limited changes. But yeah, before then, they should. I think they should be allowed to make some adjustments. But there's the pros and cons discussion. Sure, we had some teams that were on the back foot due to P1 being the only practice session. What if that team would have been Red Bull? And they wouldn't have had a lot of data, and they wouldn't have been able to set up the car. What would that have done for the sprint and the races? Would that have been an equalizer for Ferrari and Mercedes to be able to take the challenge?
It sounds like that's something that they were hoping for, almost. Like they were taking a chance that maybe.
From Red Bull's perspective, I wouldn't want anything to give me 3 sessions so we can make the car perfect. Because if our car is perfect, we know that we're the fastest car and we're going to win. Like, it makes sense for me. I do think overall this concept is more exciting to new fans to the sport and will help the sport grow. I just think they need to do some tweaks.
Yeah, like not medium running for 2. That's one thing I just didn't understand, because the qualies were the exact same thing, Mike. You can't.
Having a Q1, Q2, Q3, and then the next day you have SQ1, SQ2, SQ3. That was confusing.
Not needed.
That would confuse new fans. So if the desire is to grow the sport and bring in new fans, I would make it more simple. You can keep the qualifying the way it is, but you need to change the shootout. I don't care about the shootout. I want the drivers to actually be able to put a freaking lap in.
And that
was the problem. Like we had guys who literally weren't able to put a lap in.
Thank you. That's
the problem. When Yuki's about to cross the line and he's got a red flag, and by the way, there isn't enough time left for you to do another lap. You're out. That wasn't entertaining for me as an F1 fan.
No, it was heartbreaking as an F1 fan. The kid was less than 100 meters from the line. It was super close. It looked ridiculously close for that. And I like that 30, 45 minute FP2 shootout. Something. Let's do FP1 race quali, Parc Ferme. For you just go into Parc Ferme, can't touch it for quali, so you get a quali setup car, and then you can fuck around. Lift Parc Ferme, mess with your car, and then say, "Oh, okay, cool, but you're gonna have to put in a quali lap, by the way." and also bring your car back to a race for Sunday. Hey, that's an excellent... Stefano, how you doing? Around the outside.
Remember
here.
My race sprinklers idea, Stefano?
Even better this time.
We have another idea. Yeah, no, I just think it would be... It's not too far away from your... It's closer to the traditional format. It fixes the repetitiveness of back-to-back qualifying sessions. And I just don't think that sprint shootout was very good.
No.
Like, qualifying was entertaining and exciting. The sprint shootout was just like, when's the next rad flag going to be? It wasn't that good, unfortunately. So I'd rather see him scrap it, do something else.
Keep trying. Keep trying.
Do something else.
Yeah.
We're going to keep testing this and seeing how it goes. I think the idea of having more races, more excitement is overall good for the growth of the sport. It's not
Agreed.
Maybe what the purists want, Ian. You and I wouldn't mind having it just be P1, P2, P3, but we talked about in a previous podcast that really isn't the most exciting thing sometimes.
No.
So let's keep testing it. Let's keep trying it out, something new. I think we need to change the sprint shootout.
Good try today, guys. Swing. Hey, a foul ball. We'll call it a foul ball.
We still have 5 more at bats, right?
Oh, fuck. We do?
I know you don't like that. You're more in the con bin than the pro bin for this format. I think if they can do it right, it can be better. It can really be better than the current format, but they have to do it right. And I don't think this was the right way.
No. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. Charles, I'm sorry for not saying you would take Q1 in qualifying. Ian is going to get a point on me in our little championship because of that.
Start clawing.
I will never doubt again. I will renewed commitment and faith to Ferrari. I will be voting exclusively for Charles to be the top of qualifying from now on.
I forget what predictions we even made. They were made, a month ago?
That was the only one. Yeah, I know. But I remembered you said Charles is going to be P1 in qualifying. I'm almost certain you said that. So kudos to you. Now, he did do that for back-to-back. This is 3rd year in a row. So, I guess you're just going with the numbers. But nice one, Ian. I don't know if you knew that, but nice one.
Thank you. I knew it from the start. It felt good, Mike, believing in Charles.
Oh, God.
Oh, by the way, he's technically speaking 4-time pole sitter, even though I think we could call him a 3-time pole sitter, a 1-time S pole sitter for Baku.
And here's to extending his record of the most poles without winning the race, which will happen again tomorrow, most likely. Hopefully, Checo and Max have a coming together on lap 1, and we get a really exciting race.
I don't think I've ever asked your opinion. The 2018 Red Bull.
You need to see a doctor for that, Ian.
It burns. Who do you think was at fault, Max or Danny? I don't think we've ever talked about this. Danny was not at fault. That's what I think.
I would take more of Danny's side.
He sold the dummy.
Yeah. And Max kind of moved twice.
Yeah. But, it's Max.
And I know Danny was made out to be the bad guy in that situation from the team, which he talked about on Drive to Survive. But I was, 60% that Danny was in the right.
Yeah.
For that circumstance. I'm not surprised you feel the same way.
No.
I know you're a big Danny Rick fan.
I am. Well, if the guy fucks up, you got to admit he makes a mistake, but he sold a dummy.
Who isn't a Danny Rick fan?
I love the guy.
We all want to see him back in Formula One.
All right, tinfoil hat, Mike. Current trajectory of Carlos. Danny Rick in red, 2024.
I was pissed off when they didn't get him when he was available.
I was surprised.
Years ago. I was like, take Danny Rick. Like, Danny Rick's like solid. Like, grab him. The thing is, Danny Rick's stock has plummeted. And the fact that Red Bull has come out and said
he's a shell.
He wasn't. Yeah, basically, they said he wasn't even close to Checo and Max when they put him in the simulator at first. Like, that is like not good. I really think Danny's gonna have to go to 6, 7, 8, 9. Hopefully not the worst team, placed constructor, and show that he's a top tier driver again, or shows that he can comfortably beat his teammate before he gets a shot in a big team. It's not worth the risk of Ferrari to take in Danny when the guy that just replaced him is
performing better,
driving significantly better. Yeah.
Dude. Yeah.
That's just not worth it. Like I imagine risk assessment, you're better off just keeping Carlos. But it does not look good for Carlos has got to do better. You just got to stop trying to compete with Charles. Just like drive the best you can.
That's very good advice. Well said, Mike. Compete against yourself. That's all you can do.
I feel like that's why he sometimes overdrives and screws up.
Mm-hmm. He's trying to prove himself every time to the team.
And yeah, he wants to be world champion, but like, there's not a single universe where I can see Carlos doing what Charles did in qualifying. Can you? Can you see him beating a better car and a phenomenal driver in Max Verstappen in multiple qualifying sessions, setting the fastest lap of the entire weekend in the moment that it mattered the most? And Charles is a record of, part of the Charles Leclerc lore. The fans know about his history with Baku.
Yeah.
His dad passed away either the day before or a few days before his F2 race. He started from the very back of the grid and won the race.
Mm-hmm.
As like an 18-year-old kid. And that was one of the first examples of our resolve and how good Charles Leclerc was going to be able to overcome something like that and win from literal last
mm-hmm.
in a spec series almost. So he's got a history of absolutely dominating at Baku. But there's just not a universe where I can see Carlos doing that.
Unfortunately, no. I agree with you. I think that when we were seeing Red Bull a second ahead out the gate of everybody,
right,
that's when you think, okay, it's a Red Bull day. I was shocked, honestly shocked that Charles was, still don't know where, I'm thinking about it now. I don't know where he found that lap. I don't know where he found the pace in that car.
It's a circumstance where we can see why he's hopefully a future world champion. Like, there are all F1 drivers are really good drivers, but there's a certain small group that are better than the rest.
Which is insane to think about.
Yeah. I think I said earlier, he may be the literal fastest driver in the world on one lap. Like, in the entire world. Red Bull should have had pole.
And they didn't, because the fastest man in the world was behind a Ferrari.
it's crazy to think about that. But we've seen Nick DeVries is like you mentioned earlier. He's a Formula E champion. The guy's really good. He's P20. Like these guys are no slouches. But like we saw somebody who may be the fastest human being at driving a vehicle do something that was pretty remarkable when you look at where his teammate was. So I guess that's our big takeaway from the past 2 days. I mean, what a performance by Charles.
I'm rooting hard for Alex. I'm rooting hard for Albon.
He's so good.
Just
I feel bad for
points.
Alex and Gasly with Red Bull. The whole thing that happened with Red Bull.
So
I feel like
if
Gasly had another at bat, it would go differently.
If he had like, 7 races, not 6. If you gave Gasly 7.
Oh no, he just needed like to not be thrown in the AlphaTauri when he was like, he wasn't ready yet.
No. And I think the reason, which is why it's weird that you would get rid of Franz Tost during the sprint race today. Both Alpines were all the way in the back, and Gasly started carving his way to the front. And I think that's thanks to Franz. I think he rebuilt that kid into what we're seeing today, because you got a glimpse of what Alpine was talking about. I love Alpine. I still do not think, I think P2's very ambitious, overly ambitious to say out loud.
Not even close.
Like, did 4 fucking races in and you're going to talk about, you just crashed out a month ago and then your next car goes on fire. So you have to call in your other car to make sure that doesn't get on fire. And then your driver biffs it hard. And you're both relegated into the back because you don't. Because fucking Ocon had to start from the pit lane for some reason. I forget why, but he did. And then also, I got to say again about Yuki and DeVries. Yuki's cruising. DeVries is going for a bruising. And Aston Martin, where were they? Where were they, Mike? Seriously.
Were they having more issues with the DRS? I don't know.
What was that? Fernando's isn't working, or it's sort of working?
I guess it wasn't working, or periodically not working. I don't know. I guess the one thing I always think, they fixed the wrong car. Like, fix Fernando's. Like, like, what do you do? Fix the faster guy's car.
Lance, come here.
We got to prioritize the mechanics. Like Daddy Stroll's like, you better fix Lance's first. I don't know. But it was an interesting experiment overall the past few days for Formula One. We have an exciting race, hopefully exciting race tomorrow, where Charles is going to get a great start. He's going to, pull away in a lead, and Max is going to get really angry overtaking Checo, and Checo's going to relive Singapore, and they're going to start playing bumper cars, and yeah, hopefully it's going to be good. But we'll have to wait until tomorrow, and let's just see how it all turns out.
Awesome. Well, that's it. Thank you all so much for listening. We love Formula One, and we love sharing it with you, and we love you guys because you are the greatest fans in the world. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mike, we'll talk to you later.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. Enjoy the race.
You too. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all so much for tuning in to this part 1 of 2 special Baku episode. If you want to watch this full show on YouTube, you can. Just head on over to YouTube and go to ATO_USF1 for clips of this show and other shows and more Formula One content. Please head on over to Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at ATO_USF1. If you have the time while you are on Spotify and podcast, a review would be absolutely lovely. Once again, thank you all for being the best fans a podcast can have. Give yourselves a great day, and we'll talk to you later. Merci, dankeschön, gracias, obrigado. Cheers.